Hey, I'm Siobhan, and I love talking about all the things related to freedom and personal growth. And I'm on a journey to redefine freedom on my own terms as I become the woman I desire to be. Each week, I'll share in real time what I'm learning as I do my inner work while creating a safe space for my listeners to feel seen. If you desire to be free and live a life that feels good to you, then you're in the right place for beautiful conversations that's going to support you on your journey to freedom. Welcome to the Siobhan J. Middleton podcast. Now let's start the show. Hey, welcome back to another episode of my podcast. I'm your host, Siobhan, and as always, I'm so happy that you are back again for another week to be inspired to redefine freedom on your own terms. I'm currently listening to Viola Davis, her memoir titled Finding Me. And there's this part in the book where she talks about when she was 25 and she was on the continent of Africa. And at this stage in her life, she realized that she was in the in-between, where she was leaving her old life and starting new, but she was in an in-between phase. And that resonated with me so much that I went and I played it back a couple of times. And I'm like, that is where I'm at. I'm in the in-between. Because I've been talking about on several episodes where, this new space that I'm in is unfamiliar. And because I've never been here before, but yet there's so many things that I have had to let go of that are attached to my past. And yet I know the intention on focusing on the woman that I'm becoming. Right? So when I think about the grief that I have experienced over the last several years, whether it was ending a friendship of 25 years, leaving my marriage because it was mentally, emotionally, psychologically unhealthy, leaving my house that I, am on the mortgage, but leaving my house to move out on my own with only my clothes and my books, right? My grandmother passing away a couple of months ago. And even when I think about where I'm at right now, both of my children are in high school. And there's grief because they're becoming, or will soon be, young adults. And those are just a few of the things that are top of mind as it relates to grief. And some of the grief is attached to my past, but then there's also what I'm grieving right now. And also, I'm starting this new beautiful life. I've started, actually, this new beautiful life that I absolutely love. But I'm in this in-between stage. And there are moments where I have to, take it all in. Because with grief, it comes in moments that you least expect it. Like the other day, I was just sitting on my sofa and I was like, I miss my granny. I miss my granny. And I just started crying. And then there's this excitement because I'm moving to New Orleans in 2026. And I am thinking through that, and I shared last week about, my dreams and what I want. And I wrote a newsletter this week, so if you haven't read it yet, I suggest that you go back and read it because I talked about what came up for me after I published that episode and where I'm at now and what I'm going to focus on. And you can subscribe to the newsletter. The link is in the show notes, and you can read all of the archives. And what I'm realizing is that, yes, Siobhan, you can be excited about what's to come and what you're working towards, and then also, what you're letting go. And that is the language that I'm going to be using going forward, as long as I'm feeling this way, is that I'm in the in-between. And I am aware of all the changes that are happening in my life. And even when I think about my babies, graduating high school soon, I'm like, oh my gosh. Yes, in 2026, I'm relocating. But also that means that my children are now going to be moving on with the next chapter of their life. And there's grief in that. And I haven't quite yet even started the process of it. That's something I'm going to be working on with my therapist. But one of the things when I was in therapy yesterday, we talked about how she actually validated and affirmed me from the very beginning of the call when I was sharing with her about my weekend and what I was up to. And she was like, oh my goodness, you've seen Beyonce and Lauryn Hill in the same year? And I was like, yes, I know, I can't believe it. And I'm going to actually talk about the concert, Lauryn Hill, in another episode because I have a lot of thoughts about that. But anywho, and I was just telling her about my travels, whether it was to Tulum or Atlanta and Chicago, all within the last few months. And she was like, I really love how you have balance in your life, that even while you're working on everything that we're talking about in therapy, you're still enjoying your life. And I said, yeah, that's so important to me because I don't want to just focus on healing and grieving and all of that, and I'm not enjoying my life. And I've been posting this on social, and I actually mentioned it in the newsletter that life is over in a flash, right? Like life is over, and we have to be present to our day-to-day and live life while we're also doing our inner work. And so that's the intention behind this podcast. When I'm talking about redefining freedom, how do you want your life to look? What do you want? What do you desire? And even if you are also in the in-between stage, what does that look like for you? Like, how are you living your life while also taking care of yourself, you know? So last night I text my friend Erica because we've been friends for 23 years. And I was like, based on how you see me live my life now, are you surprised by anything? And immediately she was like, no, not at all. And I'm like, really? Tell me why. And she said, you've always had an upbeat, positive personality. I think who you are now is who you've always been. You just didn't have the space to be yourself completely, freely. And I love that response so much. So as you see me becoming the woman that I am, this is who I've always yearned to be. And so when I say that I'm in this in-between stage, I'm grieving the woman I had to be based on the situation that I was in, but also celebrating this version of myself that I get to be who I've always been. And to her point, I didn't have the space to be who I am today. And so there's this bittersweet feeling that I have because I'm letting go of that old version of me that I had to become to protect myself. And then I'm walking into this new version of myself that I've always wanted to be. And it is a process, I'll say that. And I just want to reiterate that it is completely normal to grieve the life that you used to have. Even if it wasn't necessarily good for you, there's still grief there. And I am just allowing myself to sit in it, to feel it, cry when I need to, and just know that, yeah, that was the past. That what was attached to the past. And then also, your future is so bright, right? And so I'm in this in-between stage, and I'm so grateful for the book because it helped me see that, because I didn't have the language for what I was experiencing, but that makes so much sense. And so I've been checking in for sure with my feelings. I'm in therapy once a week, which is really, really helpful for me. I'm journaling and I'm talking to my friends who create a safe space for me to be able to do that. And I will say that, the in-between is uncomfortable because of the feelings that you're going to experience. And sometimes there's many feelings happening at the same time, and that could be overwhelming. But I encourage you to lean into it. So what is helpful for me in this moment as I'm in this in-between stage is that I'm acknowledging where I am so I can be true to myself, right? Acknowledging that, yes, these things have hurt. These things have caused me pain. Yes, I'm grieving that. There's moments when I'm going to cry, when I'm going to be confused, when I'm angry, when I'm experiencing a lot of pain. Yes, that's true. And also, I walked away from a marriage, a friendship, a house, different things because I knew in my heart of hearts that wasn't good for me. And so I loved myself enough to take care of myself. And how did I do that? I removed myself from environments and people that were not good for me. And that is not easy to do at all. But also, I'm so grateful that I've done it because, as my friend said to me, you didn't have the space to be freely and completely yourself. And that showed up in many different ways, in various relationships. And then the other thing that's helpful for me is that everything that I am experiencing makes sense for me. And I don't have to explain that to anyone, right? And that feels really, really, really good. And so if you too are in the in-between stage, take time to figure out, okay, what are you feeling in this moment? What do you need? Allow yourself to grieve, right? And I also, like I was talking about last week, encourage you to figure out, what do you want? What is it that you want for your life? And whether you make a choice or not, is still going to be a choice. And it takes courage to choose yourself and to show up for yourself, but you're worth it. I personally, encourage you to find support as you navigate the in-between. I highly recommend therapy and finding a therapist that can really support where you're at. This is what I would encourage you to do as well, is to check in with yourself and ask, am I living the life that I want? Do I feel free? And where do you think you're at? Do you think that you're in the in-between stage? Maybe you are still stuck in your life, or maybe you are on the other end of it where you're living this beautiful, free, happy life and you're exactly where you want to be. But the important thing is to check in and think about all the areas of your life. Do they feel the way that you want them to feel? Hopefully this episode was inspiring to you. If so, please make sure you support by treating me to a cup of coffee. The link is in the show notes. Every week someone does that, and I deeply appreciate it. I would love for you to share this episode with a friend. You can text them the link. You can share it on social media, wherever you hang out. If you're on Instagram, that's where I'm at, so you can tag me. My link is in the show notes. I would love, love, love for you to rate this podcast 5 stars and leave a comment on Apple Podcasts. I also believe you can do this on Spotify. I just don't know how yet, but if you know how, you can do that there. And then you can also leave a comment over on YouTube. And lastly, I would love for you to subscribe to my weekly newsletter. There's 2 different options. You can become a free subscriber where you get my weekly newsletter every single week, no cost to you. Or you can become a paid subscriber. And basically, you're just supporting the work that I do. And that's only $10 a month, which is so amazing. I'm so grateful for everyone that has subscribed thus far. Putting out content every week is a job and a half. And any type of support that I receive, I'm extremely grateful for. And paid subscribers actually get a little bit extra from me. And you can see all of that by clicking the link in the show notes. So thank you in advance. Sending you so much love and light, and I wish you the most amazing day ever.